Hey, welcome to this week's edition of 26 Minutes with. It's the podcast that honors those who are leading, making an impact, and creating positive change on the planet and locally. I'm your host, David Cohen, and I'm really pleased to have this week's guest with us. It's Gordon Melville. Gordon is a heart-centric, no-judgment advocate for mental awareness. He's also a certified life coach, mentor, mental awareness advocate, best-selling author, and a keynote speaker teaching entrepreneurs to navigate cognitive presence and health in a world of judgment and toxic masculinity. We're going to talk about all of that today. He is the founder of and CEO of Jewel International and the digital radio host, podcaster, and TV personality of The Long Bearded Guy, a high-performance mindset mentor, best-selling author, keynote speaker who teaches entrepreneurs to navigate, again, the mental awareness and health in a world of that judgment and that toxicity that men can have. He's worked with the likes of Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar. He's been developing his own coaching specialization, working with professional athletes and high-level business people. And when he's not writing, podcasting, or coaching, Gordon can be found focusing on his spiritual health alongside his wife of 30 years and his 3 young sons. I was going to add, and taking long walks on the beach at night. No. All right. Got to add a little romance, man. So I guess the first topic I want to take on is your work with mental health. Collectively, these past 3+ years have had a big impact on us. How are we all doing collectively managing our mental health, Gordon?
That's a great question. Thank you for having me, David. I'm very excited to be on with you today. I've been looking forward to this, so thank you so much for that.
Great too. And welcome. I'm excited too.
Thank you so much. You know what? It's a great question because I think what I'm finding is that are we in a different place? Yes. Is it getting better? Yes. Are we where we need to be? Not even freaking close. And I say that because mental awareness, and I call it mental awareness as opposed to mental health, mental illness, those things are included, but I think there's a lot under that umbrella that have nothing to do with mental health, mental illness. So I call it awareness, mental awareness. We can't help or fix something until we are aware that it's there, right? If you have an addiction, until you get to a place where you go, hey, I have an addiction, nobody can help you no matter how good the program is. So that becomes an awareness, right? But I think what's happening is, especially for guys, women seem to tap into their emotional quotients better or more easily than men do, because we've been sort of brainwashed into thinking, and society has us in this space that says, we don't care how much pain you're in, and we don't care how much it hurts. We just need you to cowboy up and man up and be who we need you to be and deal with the situation. And so the challenge is that it's like you're buying insurance. You need to buy insurance when you don't need it, because when you do need it, you don't qualify, right? So in the same way, putting tools in our tool belt to be able to deal with the regular emotions and the regular stuff that we feel every day that we were taught not to show anybody, if we don't know how to deal with that, and if we don't put those tools in our tool belt when we feel we're all good and healthy, when we're not healthy, guys are choosing suicide over asking for help. And we succeed at it 5 to 1. Our female counterparts try more often than we do. They try that option way more than we do, but we're 5 to 1 times more successful in completing that mission when we do it. And so if we get into a space where we can't deal, we don't want, because there's a word that I think you and I talked about at another time, was stigma. Mm-hmm. I really dislike that word. I really do, because I think it's a sanitized, civilized word that we use, so we don't have to admit what we're actually doing. And people say, okay, what are we doing? And I'm like, we're just being judgmental. we're saying I'm better than them because I don't have to deal with that. So it's exclusive, right? Them and me. And that's not the case. We're all on that mental awareness spectrum. It doesn't have to be full-blown schizophrenia or depression or suicide or PTSD or any of the heavy stuff we think about. It can be just a little bit of light stress or anxiety or depression because of the bills or our finances or the kids or something at work or whatever. But if I don't deal with that light stuff in a positive way, I am going to end up on the other end of that spectrum, which is what's been happening. And because guys we have to be macho. I can't show weakness in any way. I can't even admit that I have weaknesses in that space. So then it's, hey, just figure it out on your own. And because there's so much judgment around asking for help, I have 3 teenage sons and I tell them all the time, it's a sign of strength, not weakness, to ask for help. Because if I can't get it done on my own, and most of us can't, most men are not in a space, and sad to say, less than 3% of the population does any kind of personal development.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That means most of us don't want to. We'll whine and bitch and complain about our life and our job and our family, and no one listens to me, and I can't seem to get it. And it causes some serious challenges, but we don't actually do anything about it. Right?
Yeah.
It's almost like it's not that we like bitching and complaining, but misery likes company.
I think so we do on some level. I think we get addicted to the story.
Absolutely, we do. For sure, we do.
And that's and it's like when you kind of realize, like, enough of that story, I want to create a new one.
Right. Well, and you know what? I absolutely right. I get guys that will whine and bitch and complain. I'm like, great. What have you done about that?
Nothing.
Nothing. Right. And I'm like, great. Then you know what? Buckle up. And they're like, what? I'm like, well, you know what? The pain isn't big enough yet. Because once the pain is big enough, you'll do something about it. So you can whine and bitch and complain all you like, but the pain's not bad enough yet. That means it's going to ratchet up, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse and build and build and build until you get to a point where you either do something about it, or you know, sort of what they used to say, where it was like, you know, buck up and shut up, or do something about it.
Yeah, take action.
Absolutely.
It's like the old farmer and the dog story, you know, about the farmer and the dog story. So
I might refresh my memory.
There's a farm. Okay, I'll give you my version of it. So I'm from Ottawa originally, and I used to go home to visit my family regularly. And on the drive there, I would go through Belleville and then through Tweed and then Highway 7 because it was more scenic.
Yep.
And I would stop at a Tim Hortons in Tweed, and I'd get my coffee, have a bio break. And one day I come out and I see a farmer with his dog, a local farmer, and the dog's going. I'm going, dude, what's up with your dog? And he laughs at me, and he's chewing a blade of grass and everything. And he's got the Ottawa Valley accent. He goes, oh, him, eh? He's sitting on a nail, don't you know? And I'm going, he's what? You know, what's wrong with these country people? You know, and I'm going, well, why doesn't he get off? And then he laughs and he says, oh, because it doesn't hurt enough yet, bye.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
So I have a rant warning, okay?
Okay.
Because I think, you know, collectively our mental health is caused a lot by what's going on outside. The government of Canada, I don't know if you know this, has appointed MP, she's my MP too, where I live, Yara Sachs, as the Minister for Mental Health and Addictions. Oh, great. To me, this is an oxymoron. I'll tell you why. Because government policy, the leadership, the inflation, the financial policies, the cost of living, dividing Canadians instead of having a unity consciousness, and having, to me, an utter lack of vision for the country. Sorry, it's just how I feel.
Yep.
I think that's causing a lot of angst and concern, just in the population itself. I think we're all a little like angry and fed up. Like, she's got her work cut out for her as the new, minister for that portfolio.
Absolutely. Well, you know what I think too. Sorry, go ahead.
No, what's your take on that?
No, I think sometimes we allow what's going on outside of us to dictate we're allowing that. We're choosing to plug into that, right? Instead of going, you know what, I'm going to run my own stuff. I'm going to, Cardone used to say, yep, the economy might go for a crap, but I'm choosing not to participate in that recession, right? And do my own thing and just sort of let it hang. And I think a lot of times we allow what's going on around us and the opinions of other people to dictate for us what we're feeling, to tell us what we're feeling or what we should be feeling or what should be causing us some challenges, instead of stepping up and going, you know what, I'm going to live in my own empowerment. I'm going to do my own thing and choose to have a positive outlook. I'm going to choose not to participate in the three-ring circus that's happening and is it happening? For sure it is. But we can choose to participate in that or not participate in that. Right. And to be able to set our own compass and our own guideline based on, because the thing is, your journey is for you, right? David Cohen's journey is for you, but Gordon Melville's journey is for, and we don't need validation or opinion or approval or even for people to understand it. It doesn't nobody has to understand my journey. It's not for them, it's for me. But then we have to be courageous enough to step into that and choose to actually execute on what that journey looks like. Right?
Yes, and to own it.
Absolutely. We can sometimes. Something I say regularly is that, sometimes we have this, Superman moment and we put our hands on our hips and we go, hey, I'm going to be unabashedly, unapologetically me. And if they like it, great. If they don't like it, I don't care. And right. But as soon as somebody that we love or respect questions that, we go, and we put our mask back on because they're not going to love me or like me if I'm not playing my part. And so it causes some challenges, because if I'm trying to play a character, right, if I'm playing a part instead of being me, then when situations happen, I know how I would respond to that or react to that, but I'm not being me. I'm being this character. So how does that character respond or react to the situation? And so it complicates the snot out of it. It's like looking at some of these companies that go, I know in the car business, people used to say, oh, you have 2 sets of books, right? We showed them the invoice and they, oh, you've got 2 sets of books. And I used to look at them and laugh and go, you know what? You know how hard it is to keep 1 set of books? 2 sets of it brutally hard to keep 1 set. When we talk about control is an illusion outside of what we think and what we do. I mean, if you got children or pets, you realize very quickly control is an illusion. There's no such thing as control outside of what we think and what we do. And I look at people and go, so what have you done or what do you do to master control of you? It's not Pinky in the Brain. It's not world domination. It's what have you done to learn to master control of your own mind, your own emotion, so that what you do is a reflection of that. And most people go, I haven't done anything for that. Like I don't spend. Okay, so the one thing you can control, you've abdicated the power to do so. And then you whine and bitch and complain because your life's not what you want it to be. But like show up 100% authentically as yourself. And let the chips fall where they may. And if that means you lose people in your life, then you lose people in your life. But, I said to someone just recently, I would prefer to be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not. Right. I want to be authentically me. And if I'm your cup of tea, great. I'm not everybody's cup of tea and I'm okay with that. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that whole being okay with stuff is a linchpin for a lot of things, because if we can't be okay with it and step up and be ourselves, we're causing ourselves angst and challenges that we don't need to carry around.
Right. So how are, I know women are a bit better than this, but they need to work on it too.
They do.
But how are men doing with, self-love, authenticity, and self-care and nurturing? You're shaking your head. No.
Not happening. That's what got me into trouble. So I spent 30 years as the Energizer Bunny, right? We were taught it was selfish to look after yourself first. We were others focused, and that's fine. It's not wrong to be others focused. I'm all over that. But I think they did it as a disservice, because what they should have said was, Because right now I think it's selfish not to look after yourself first, but it's not look after myself first instead of looking after my responsibilities and the people that count on me. It's look after myself first so that I can show up the way I need to. And
Right.
most men just we keep pushing and we keep pushing. And you're right. There's some women that fall into that. I don't want to use it as an umbrella and go, hey, every man does have any EQ and every woman is, that's not the case. But by and large, women are way more in touch with their emotional state and that set of that energy than most men are. Most men don't have that level of the ability to do. We have the ability. I shouldn't say it that way. They do have the ability. They just don't choose to plug into it.
So why is that? What is that to use the lack of a better word, you already used it. What is that stigma that's preventing us from taking that leap? Because I think if men start to take that leap, this whole world could change. Seriously,
Absolutely,
the whole dynamic could change.
absolutely it would. But we have to get past this thing that says, "Hey, you're weak if you talk. You're weak if you don't ask for help." Pardon me. If you ask for help, you're weak. Right? You should be able to figure it out. And you know what? As adults, we go, hey, I'm a full grown guy. I should be able to figure it out on my own. I shouldn't need help. Well, that's not the case. And we all talk about this lone wolf thing where I'm gonna be me. I don't need anybody else. I'm gonna brood and I'm gonna hold on to it. And guys tend to do one of two things with their emotion. They either push it down inside themselves, they just hold it inside, they hold that dis-ease in their bodies. It makes them sick, but they do it anyway. Or we put our emotions in a box and we put it on a shelf because we're not supposed to deal with that. Society and we're conditioned not to deal with that. The challenge either way is that we still have residual pain from that. We still have
Trauma.
with it. Yeah, absolutely we do. And then, but what do we do then? What we're trying to do is dull the pain. How do I stop the pain? So now I drink and I gamble or I drugs or porn or whatever it is, doesn't matter. The point is now I have a vice on top of the problem and probably an addiction on top of the problem, which is going to cause even more challenges than if I just learned how to deal with the emotion, acknowledge it's there, deal with the emotion, and then let it go, right? Not hold it inside. But we don't have the tools we need. Most guys do not. And it's a weird thing because when we're in a happy place or we feel we're in a good place, we go, I don't need to add tools right now. I'm in a good place. It's like, yeah, I understand, but we need to put the tools in when we're in a good place so that when we're not in a good place, we can access those tools. And having one or two tools is not enough. Having 10 tools is not enough, right? Because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I have 3 teenage sons. Sometimes what works for me won't work for them. So now I just need to I keep adding in dozens of ways, but I just keep adding and keep adding and keep adding and plugging into new stuff all the time because some things are going to work. Sometimes I'll try everything I know and it doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, well, crap. Now what do I do? And the sadness and the part of the angst for me is that I get to see firsthand over and over and over and over and over and over and over where guys have chosen, they get into a space, they try what they know and it doesn't work. And then the choice they make is a permanent one to a temporary situation. And now they can't do anything about it. And what they've done is taken their sadness and their angst. It doesn't go away. No energy is created or eliminated. So that energy stays. Well, what happens to it? They're not sad anymore because they're not on the planet anymore. What they do is transfer that sadness to the people around them.
Right.
That energy
You're
stays
talking
there.
suicide here, right?
Suicide, yeah.
Okay. We're gonna get to that because I got what are some tools then that we can put into our toolbox? And you also mentioned too, Gordon, that we put our emotions in a box and it's up on the shelf. And I don't know why, but I got the vision of All in the Family. Remember Archie and Edith? And Edith was the emotional. She would cry and Archie, and he'd say, "What do you want, Edith?
Yeah.
Get out of my chair, too." Right? And then when she got all emotional, he was kind of like, "Oh, geez." So what do we need to do and put in our toolbox so we're not being Archie Bunker?
You know what? And that's a great question. I used to love that show. I saw just recently some highlights from it, and I'm like, wow, that was so offside. They would never be able to do that. Archie
No,
would
I know.
not be able to say some of the things that he said then. But you know what? A lot of times it's the difference between, and I tell this to my sons all the time, the difference between success and failure, a lot of times, probably most of the time, is the actual execution, is actually the doing of it. So we have to get to a point where there are options available that we can plug into, because guys will open up if they feel not judged and safe. They'll open up, they'll talk. I was talking to a gentleman. He said, Gord, for me to open up, I said, I'm most alpha you've ever seen. For me to open up to you, you'd have to be in my inner circle. And even then, probably not. And I said, you know what? With all due respect, my experience with alphas is that it's something that it's armor they wear so that nobody realizes what a marshmallow they are. And he started to laugh and he goes, well, that's why I close the drapes when my grandbabies come over, because my marshmallow spills out all over the floor. And we laughed about it. I think he was trying to be funny, but I think he was sharing something that he probably doesn't share with everybody, because he knew he was safe and not judged in that space. He was telling me he has marshmallow. He was telling me that's exactly right. I've got armor on the outside to make sure that nobody penetrates that. The challenge with that is not only does nobody penetrate that, but the love that we want to go out doesn't go out, because this armor not only might shield from things coming in, but it also prevents anything from going out. And I think a lot of times if we're sitting in a cage that we built ourselves with the door open and the key in our hand. If the door happened to close, we've got a key to open the door. And we sit in that self-imposed cage going, hey, I'm being restricted because I can't be who I want to be. I'm being restricted. I'm being restricted. But we sit in that so long that at some point we close the door and throw the key out where beyond where we could reach it. Now it's protection, because now we're too scared to get out of the cage. So being able to plug into, you ask, what are the tools? There's gobs of tools, dozens and dozens and dozens of tools. But until we get to a place where we go, you know what, that's uncomfortable. And I'm not sure how that's going to work, but you know what, I have to do something because the pain is too much. I have to do, and we actually execute. We actually plug in and try something until we get to a point where we're going to do that. The options don't really matter, right? Because once we get to a point where we go, you know what, I have to find something, all of a sudden the tools start to show up. The tools start to be used but not because they weren't always, not because they're new, but because they were always there. We just didn't see them that way, right? Or we've heard them before and we discounted it because we weren't in the space to hear it. We weren't ready to actually implement. So we heard it, but we didn't do any, because a lot of them are simple. Going for a walk, that'll help huge. The endorphins that releases, when you're in a happy place, in a really high vibration, set up a Spotify list of 2 or 3 hours of songs that are in that same high vibration space that keep you going and make you feel good and whatever. And then when you get into a low place, you go for a walk and put your earbuds in and listen, hit play on the Spotify list, because the combination of the endorphins of your walking and the hearing that positive energy, by the time you get home, I guarantee you won't be in the same space anymore. But we have to be able to get to a place where we do it. They used to say, and I've heard lots, the road to hell's paved with good intentions. Like it's the good intentions that were the problem. The good intentions weren't the problem. The problem wasn't having to have good intention. That's good. We need to put that out there, but then we need to do something with it. We don't actually execute, and then we bitch and whine because we didn't get the result. We didn't do the work, you dumb shit. Come on. You have to do both sides of that equation.
Yeah.
Have the good intention, but then do something with it. Right?
Yeah. So what would maybe a good day-to-day practice? What are like 3 key things we should integrate in our day-to-day self-care, self-love practice to act on to help us manage our mental health?
Beautiful. You know what? Having a morning and evening routine. something that you do day in, day out, day in, day out, that you don't compromise with, that you go, you know what, I have to be able to do this for myself. With my clients, I used to say to them, hey, what time do you get up? Oh, I get up at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever. It doesn't matter what time. I'm like, how long is it going to take you to do your self-care? And we would go over, what does that mean? Right? All the different bits and pieces of that. And they'll say, okay, it's going to take me an hour. I'm like, great. So you're normally getting up at 6 o'clock. You're now getting up at 5 a.m. Well, I can't do it. Hey, then that means you go to bed early. Then you go to bed an hour earlier, then do it. Because what's happening, if you don't have a proper morning and evening routine that's, setting up your day and ending your day, so bookending your day, you're not maximizing. All it takes is a little, and it's not hard. It's, you said, what are 3 things? So getting the right amount of sleep that you need, because everybody's different. Some people need 8-10 hours, and some people can get away with 5-6 hours. Right now, I still say it's probably on in between that somewhere. It's probably between 6 and 8 hours somewhere. Mm-hmm. But being able to do that, being able to do some kind of exercise. And I'm not healthy at the moment, so getting up and going to the gym and working out, I used to do that. I can't do that anymore. So, but getting out and going for a walk, getting out and being physical, reading 5 or 10 pages of a book, that not a comic book, not a magazine, some kind of a personal development type. Grab some Napoleon Hill, grab some Earl Nightingale, grab some Tony Robbins, John Maxwell. Like, there's gobs and gobs and gobs of good authors out there.
Right.
But you don't have to sit down and read, the whole book at one sitting. Read 5, but commit to yourself. Hey, I'm going to read 5 pages of a book that's going to edify me every day.
Yeah.
Even just 5 days a week. Take the weekends off. That's fine. But do it 5 days a week, because you'll get through the book. Journaling is something that I love to do. And I write in 5 different journals every day, and I have for almost 35 years. But the expectation of it is that people sit down, oh, I don't have time to do that. Well, you don't have to sit down and write 5 pages. Sit down and write just something. Zig said to me, Zig Ziglar got me onto that, doing that. And I said, what happens if I don't have anything to say? He said, then write that. I said, write what? There's nothing to say. He goes, write that. What? I have nothing to say? Yes. Okay. So I have nothing new to add today. Can I write that? Do I have the time to write 1 sentence on a page? Probably. Right. So but did you, so I said to him, is that okay? He said, yes. Did you write in the book? Well, yeah, but I wrote, I don't have any to say. Yeah. Did you write in the book? Yes. Great. Then you can credibly say you've written in your book every day. And I was like, okay. So the only journal I have that doesn't have that in it anywhere, I have nothing new to add today, is my gratitude journal, because there's always something to be grateful for.
I do that. Here's mine. I'm showing for those just listening to the audio. I do that every day. I have gratitude. Perfect. And then my journal. Perfect. And today was just writing Absolutely. About some angst I'm going through with my business that we talked about
Exactly right. Absolutely right. So I mean, that's a few ideas, but it's having some kind of routine that you stick to. Yeah. I call it being under covenant with yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Promise yourself, at least yourself, right? You're not going to break the promise with yourself. I'm going to commit to this for 5 days a week. I'm going to do exactly what I'm supposed to do, at least those 5 days. You want to take the weekend and have fun and whatever, knock yourself out. That I would, on some levels, I challenge too, because I heard somebody recently talk about what's the difference. Everybody looks forward to the weekend. WEEK, the weekend. So the end of the week. But a lot of times, because we slow down and we take our foot off the gas, it becomes a WEAK end.
Right.
Right.
And still be thankful for things.
Absolutely right.
Being a friend, going out. I saw music on Saturday. You know.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah. Modify it right now. But the other thing that seems to flop into all of this is that a lot of times when we're at work, we lament we're not at home. And when we're at home, we lament we're not at work. So we're not really present in either place, right? So if we could get present if you're at work, focus at work, like laser focus on what we're doing at work. Don't let other things, don't let, social media and our phones and take all the distractions away, really focus when we're at work, because you get way more done. And then when you go home, leave all your work shit at work, or leave it outside the house or whatever. Don't bring it in with you. And when you're sitting with your family, don't let anything else intrude on that space.
Yes.
Right? Really be present, because the relationships get better. everything gets better. You'll have, it doesn't then need to be quantity of time. It's, although that's important too, but quality of time becomes, right. Part of the problem is that we say, oh, I'm at home. Or wife say, hey, you never come home. Well, a lot of times I'm at home, we're at home, and I'm preaching to myself as well as anybody else. A lot of times we're at home, but everybody's on their phone, wherever they're on the computer, or they're playing video game or whatever. Like, they're not actually interacting with each other. A lot of families don't even sit down and have dinner together anymore. So they're all eating at different times because schedules and whatever. Well, that we wonder why there's no cohesiveness. Well, how do you expect that? Has to be fostered. That has to be become part of the culture in the house. And if I can pull it all together and go, okay, you know what? When we're at home, I'm going to be at home. I'm going to have, my kids are going to have the attention. My wife's going to have the attention. I'm not going to be answering emails and whatever over the dinner table, or you know, I'm going to, when I'm at home, I'm at home. And what oh, I can't possibly do that. I've got clients that, no. What you do is teach them how to, what you're going to give them. You're
Yeah,
teaching them,
look at a store has business hours,
right, exactly right,
9 to 6, right? Say, for
right,
example, you
right,
keep going there at 10 going, what the hell? They're not home or they're not
right,
open, right?
right. Well, I do a thing, and I learned this from somebody else who said, and they say this to all their clients. Hey, I check my emails at 8 a.m. and I check them at 9 p.m. Don't expect an email from me or a text from me anytime through the day. I'm busy. I've got stuff going on. I've got other clients. I've got, right. So that what it teaches them is, hey, if I send them a message or an email at noon, they'll respond to me at some point tonight, but they're not responding to me right this second.
Right.
Right. And it's okay if that's okay.
Yeah. Manage
People
the
do a
clock.
thing. Sorry.
Manage the clock.
Absolutely. We do it. I heard somebody say, Gord, I don't have any time for myself. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, I don't have, I said, how do you set up your week? Well, I don't. Okay, well, that's a problem. But I said, you know what? If you set up your week on the Sunday night for the whole week, this is roughly what I got going on this week. But if you chunk the time, right? And if people that understand that, you know, if you don't understand it, reach out to me. I can explain it. But, and there's some really good techniques around that chunking. But what I find is that if I start with the times I need. Right. So I know I got to get to my son's graduation. That's going to be this day at this time. I need a little bit of time for that. I need time for my breakfast with my wife on these 3 days. I need, whatever it is, whatever happens, I'm going to take the time I need. I'm going to block that in. And then whatever other time is available, that's going to go to clients and to meetings and anything else I got to do. But that way I get my own self-care is built in at the beginning of the week. That way I'm getting what I need before anybody else gets any of my time. That way I can show up for them. And I've said that to clients. Do you want me at 100% or you want me at 50%? Well, I want you at 100%. Great. Then you have to let me do my self-care, because if you don't, I can't show up as 100% for you. And I want to do that too. I want to be 100% for you, but I have to be able to do my self-care.
Okay, this is a good place to end. We went a little over in our 26 minutes, but that's great. We're going to come back though, so don't go anywhere. And those listening, don't go anywhere. You're listening to 26 Minutes with the podcast. I'm your host, David Cohen, and with us is a great guest, as you could probably tell just by listening, Gordon Melville. And we've been talking mental health. We're going to look at preventing suicide from being an outcome of not looking after yourself. And that's coming up next in our deeper dive. Gordon, before we do take this break, where do we reach you to work with you?
The easiest way to reach me is at Jewel. So JEWIL. It's an acronym for Jandon Empowerment with Intention Life Coaching. But it's Jewel, JEWIL.coaching at gmail.com. Okay. Or you can pull up make sure the is there, the long bearded guy on any social media, or you can even email the long bearded guy at gmail.com.
Okay.
Whichever you prefer.
Awesome. All right. I really appreciate this first part. I think the second part's going to be pretty rich too. So that's coming up next. Thank you, Gordon. And for those listening, thank you. Stay with us. Our deeper dive is next.